첫 번째 강의에 나설 강연자는 3Doodler의 개발자인 맥스웰 보그 씨입니다. 네, 3Doodler. doodle이 영어로 낙서하다, 그냥 막 그리다 이런 뜻을 가지고 있거든요. 아마 여러분들이 가장 기대하고 계시는 또 오늘의 신기술이 아닐까 이런 생각이 듭니다. 강연 제목은 3Doodler Simplifying Technology and Empowering Creativity. 기술을 단순화시켜서 창의성을 극대화시킨다. 이렇게 해석이 되겠습니다. 여러분 큰 박수로 맞이해 주세요.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank TechPlus for inviting me here. I'm Maxwell Bogue, the CEO of WobbleWorks, which is the company that created the 3Doodler. So we're a relatively new company, but originally WobbleWorks was started as a toy innovation company. I came from the toy industry, innovating and creating robotic toys, and largely that was our focus. So my co-founder, Peter Dilworth, and I started WobbleWorks in around 2010, and you see those crazy bunny ears on our head. Those are actually our first product that we started with, which are called wigglers, which are little bunny ears that wiggle. So they're quite cute. Peter Dilworth, though, came from MIT's Leg Lab, and he's been obsessed with dinosaur robots for a number of years. The other photo that you see is actually his Trudosaurus called Trudy, which is a project that he's been working on for about 10 years now. It's a self-stabilizing robot. And primarily that's what we were focused on doing, was toy robotics and simplifying mechanisms. In that process, though, we used a lot of 3D printers. Oops, wrong direction. There we go. Oh, there we go. Now, when you use a 3D printer, you often find it quite entertaining to actually watch these things in the process as they build up layer by layer by layer. And one day, Peter was sitting there staring at his 3D printer, and it made a mistake. It misprinted, and the two pieces actually separated in the process of printing. And he turned to me and he said, why can't you just take the head off of the 3D printer and use the plastic to fill in the sides and re-put that piece back together? And we both kind of slapped our heads and went, oh, we can. So the next day we actually took apart one of our 3D printers and we created the monstrosity that you see in that other photo, which we called the teacup. It's a large stepper motor, an extruder, a little Arduino to control the process, and a tiny little handle. And it worked terribly, but it worked. So we decided that maybe we should try and play around with this a bit. And what we did is a lot of trial and error, a lot of failure, which is what the 3Doodler was really inspired by, was the failure of the 3D printer. So what we ended up doing was creating quite a number of prototypes. We went through 6 iterations, each time improving it, adding a cooling system, making it more sleek and pen-like. We resulted in what we call the V5, which is what we put on Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding platform. Some other people have been talking about it today. There are other platforms out there like Indiegogo and things like that. And we did this because we really didn't know whether or not anyone wanted this device. We really thought it was mainly for, well, repairing 3D prints, and maybe some arts and hobbyist people would want it for making doodles. We named this thing the 3Doodler. We spent 3 months just prepping the launch of this, gathering media and doing whatnot. And we were seeking $30,000, and we managed to raise $2.3 million. It clearly inspired a lot of people and had a much wider audience than we could have ever imagined. So the 3Doodler went from this concept and lots of iterations to an actual product in around 7 months, which is an exceedingly fast time period. And the reason that we were actually able to do this is because I had done manufacturing for a number of years, and so had Peter. And we grew a team that was very small and very focused on this product alone. So I'm going to do a live demo of this thing. And what it is essentially the extruder head of a 3D printer that's been turned into a pen, which actually lets you draw in the air, which some people call magic. I call cool. And you can make complicated things. So this Eiffel Tower, for example, I made this last night in about an hour and a half. Now this I made on flat surface. There's a video later you'll see, and you peel off the pieces and then you join them together. But the wow factor of this device is actually the up. So just wait a moment for it to warm up. A lot more happened on this than we ever thought possible, in the sense that it was meant for that small audience that I described. But when we put it on Kickstarter, it quickly went far beyond that. Originally, we saw a very small group of people using this. And now we have designers and architects. Yeah, that's the wow factor. Who all want to use this for all sorts of different purposes. And then we'll do the other side. So now I'm not an artist. I'm not particularly skilled in art. So the things that I make are not that pretty. But I'll show you later what some real people, real artists can do with this. There we go. Oop. I cheated, I know. And then you can just combine these back together. So this is a terrible cube, but and what you have is an actual physical structure. Now the beauty of this is that there's no software, there's nothing to really learn. It's like using a pen. You do need to rethink how you are drawing, though. Instead of doing this flat dimensional stuff, you're drawing in the air, so you have to spend a moment thinking about what does that mean to draw in the air. I'll do a little man here. So we do two little legs. Ooh. And it's called a 3-doodler because it's imprecise. It's almost the exact opposite of what you want out of a 3D printer, but it's a really great stepping stone into 3D printing. It gets you to start thinking about plastics and how 3D printers work and what you can really do with them. And as I said initially, we were thinking hobbyists, artists, but we found a huge educational component out of this. A lot of schools want to use this to teach math, science. You can use it for engineering, because you can make things without having to fool around in software. And you can just simply draw. And we'll just add some arms. Oop, you fell over. Oh, well, so I'll just do it by hand then. I'm going to add a head. So it simply just takes plastic in and extrudes it out, and it has a cooling system as well. And you can produce a little man. If you want, you can add to that little man. I always like to do a little balloon. Ooh. So it'll be a off-centered balloon, but yeah. So these are, thank you. So as you can see, we actually made this thing. It takes ABS and PLA plastic, which are the two most common types of plastic that are available on the market for 3D printing. It also as of recently, we've tested it with wood filament. There's new wood filaments as well as nylon works quite well with it. Rubber and conductive plastic seem to work. So it's really this amazing tool that you can do a lot with. Now, to make complicated things, and if you're not artistically inclined, you can just simply draw them on a flat surface. So this is from our Kickstarter video where I made a 2-foot-tall Eiffel Tower, and I simply drew it on the flat pieces of paper, peeled it off, and then joined those pieces together to create a large Eiffel Tower. It's a bit larger than that one. Now, originally, this took me 7 hours using the first prototype that we ever had. It can now be done in 2 hours. It has nothing to do with skill and everything to do with the fact that this product has greatly improved in that time. So this is what other people have made, which are more artistic in nature. Something for Tim Burton's birthday. The chariot that you see there actually moves. Those are working wheels. So you can actually drag that around and create things. And this really opens up a lot of opportunity for younger kids, middle school, high school kids, to create physical objects without mucking about on the 3D printer too much. And you can instantly see the results. So you have that instant satisfaction that we've all come to expect in this modern world. Sometimes in the office we have these doodle-offs. It was like this where we get frustrated, so we challenge each other to create something. This was a Vespa doodle-off. The red one was from another co-founder, Daniel Cohen, and the blue one was from our chief doodler, who loves his title of being chief doodler. And I personally think the blue one is the better one. But really, this is a mixture of art and science. And here we have an Escher painting that we did early on, where we used physical objects to then wrap around and create the fingers and then put it all together and making this Escher hand that's actually coming out of the paper, which would be something that we think Escher would actually particularly love. This is from Peter Doerth. This is a great example of what you can do if you have an engineering mind towards this. This is a scale replica of the Red Baron, a World War I fighter plane. The propeller moves and those wheels move. But once again, this was all done in pieces and then assembled. The fact is that you can do these highly detailed things. Now, they're not as precise as a 3D printer, but you can get pretty good if you spend enough time playing around with this. It's just a lot of fun. We find it quite addictive. We have a huge interest from the architectural community, who's currently using it to do pre-sketching. So before they go to the 3D and mock it up on the computer, they're sitting around and they're just drawing structures, seeing what they like, seeing what they don't like. They're also using it to augment pre-existing structures. So if you have a model, you spent all this money on this model, and you really want to see what it would look like with this object coming off of it or something like that, you can use the 3Doodler to simply draw in the air and create that extension. So this was done for an expo in Berlin. They're opening a new, I can't remember what it was, the new structure. This is a mock-up of it that we did. This is a mix of ABS and PLA. The water, for example, is done in PLA because you can do translucence. And I will say PLA is a bioplastic, which means it's made from corn, sometimes yogurt, and it's a biodegradable plastic. So it's a bit more eco-friendly than ABS plastic. But ABS plastic is everywhere, and it's quite useful for fixing things. Since our world is made of ABS plastic, the 3Doodler can also work as a plastic welder. So anytime you break something, you can just 3Doodle it back together. And in some cases, it's actually stronger than superglue. This next piece is very artistic. This is from our chief doodler. This is the Arara bird. And essentially, this is an example of how to make something more complicated with the 3Doodler, where it's done in these pieces, as I've been talking about, where he sketched out the bird wings, and then he went around and he doodled. And this took him about 3 to 4 hours to complete. It's a highly detailed piece, so obviously it took a longer time. What you can see, though, is that he's layering up to create these things. And that layering process helps to create mass and helps to strengthen the bird itself. And it's very robust. I mean, these things are quite strong. I mean, this is plastic. This is not hot glue Although it is similar to a hot glue gun, these creations are physical and have real form. So he creates the structure or the skeleton, and then he embellishes it by adding some blue. And then we see Faraz will slowly get done with this and then move on to doing the head. And at the end, what we have is this fantastic looking bird that's coming up. Just a moment. So he really, get in and do this fine detail work. And we honestly didn't think at the time when we created this that it could do fine art or more beautiful art. And by kickstarting this, by putting this out for everyone to see and getting all these pre-orders, we actually ended up finding a whole host of new applications for this device, which we had never seen or never thought of before. We're currently launched 2 programs in the United States for the educational, specifically for the visually impaired and the blind. This device represents the first time that you can create a raised line on a flat piece of paper. And what that means is that you can do graphing and feel the line. You can sign your signature and actually feel what your signature looks like, as well as you can write Braille, which is something we never thought you could do. In fact, when we were contacted by the visually impaired community, specifically looking at using this technology, we told them, forget Braille. It's not accurate enough. There's no way you're going to get away with that. And then we handed it to one of our educational distributors in the UK, who happens to be blind, and he wrote his signature and felt it and went, that's what that feels like. I thought it was right. And then he proceeded to write Braille, which we were simply amazed about. So now these are examples of some other artists. We went out and we had, there's a website out there called Etsy, and we had some Etsy artists who helped out on our Kickstarter project by providing demonstrations to people of what could be done with the 3-doodler. The swing works. There's a piece of copper, and you can make moving things, which we think is quite amazing. This was with another one of our artists, Bud, who did something else that we never expected, where he carved out a piece of wood and then 3-doodled on top of that to create a mold, and then separated those 2 pieces and then joined them back together to create those fish, and then embellished them afterwards. So it's a lovely piece. This is getting more into things that really went beyond our expectations, where one of our artists, Echo, who works with us at the Artisans Asylum, created this dinosaur. And then going to really amazing stuff, that headpiece there, that was made with a 3-doodler, and we'd never thought of this before, but we gave it to somebody, and they made this headpiece by actually using the tip to melt into pieces so that it would smoothen out the whole process and look less doodle-like. So this is another piece done by that same woman. As you can see, the head there, all that white part is completely done using the 3-doodler, and went far beyond our expectations of what was possible. And that's really the amazing part of this modern world, where we can put things out there and get funding, because we would have never have received this level of attention if we had gone through the standard route of going to a company and selling the concept, or seeking VC funding and then slowly building. But by just throwing it out on the internet with obviously a lot of planning, we were able to capture the imagination of people and truly show that there was more possibilities out there. And it went far beyond, as I said, what we thought it could do, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger because more people are using it for different things. We just started another program involving lab scientists who want to create small structures around sensors that they're putting into some animals to protect the sensors. And we never, again, would have thought. And yet they picked it up and they used it, and right away they were able to create these structures and prevent the animals from getting to these sensors. So it's really this amazing tool that happened by pure accident, because we were just staring at our 3D printer and said, what can we do with this? So at the end of the day, we created it. It's now shipping, which we're very excited about. And we're amazed at the response. So thank you very much for your attention, and I appreciate it. Thank you.